So, welcome all, and my dear friends, masters, and gods of the world. Before we start, I would like to give my deepest gratitude to our beloved Guru, Ramashi Pitama Patriji and Parimala Patrimamji, also to my parents, and also to Grandmaster Balakrishna Garu, Shirisha Garu, and Shrikant Garu for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation today. So today the topic is about chakras, and I think Prabhakar covered that in the meditation session that we had, like last 1 hour. So we have a lot of chakras in our body, and but I think today we'll talk about the main seven chakras that we often talk about, and these chakras are primarily called energy centers. Also, okay, so um, like for example. What happens is let me take a metaphor as to the moment we start meditation, right? People talk about chakras, they talk about kundalini energy and all that, and it kind of becomes a little overwhelming to understand as to what's going on with chakras, why, what they. So just to understand what they are, right? They are basically like you have plumbing in your home that supply water to each and every part of your home. You have walls in it to regulate and control the flow of water. We have chakras or energy centers in our energy body that regulate the flow of the energy in our nadi system or the meridian system. We have like 272 meridians in our body, and wherever these meridians interact or there is a junction point, we get a energy center or energy vortex, right? So, like that, we have a lot of chakras in our body. Out of that, there are main seven junction points of these meridians in our energy body, and these correspond to the seven main major chakras that we are talking about today. And like I said, these are present in our energy body, but they impact on our physical body because any blockage or any underactiveness, or when they're underactive, will cause less flow of energy or cause more flow of energy than required. The corresponding body part, the corresponding endocrine system gets impacted. So that's why you start seeing diseases in our physical body. So imagine that, and also being chakras, right? I mean, these are not just purely like a spinning wheel, but they have a lot of things going in them. They have things that are connected to things like your DNA. They're connected to your physical body, or based on which chakra you're talking about, they're connected either to your physical body or to one of the seven bodies that you have, like your Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and your etheric body, mental body, emotional body, causal, buddhic, in their mind bodies. There are seven bodies like that. And they also get connected to the seven planes of consciousness we call the lokas, right? Like the Bhavarloka, Bhuloka, Suvarloka, Satyaloka, and Janaloka, Mahaloka, and all that. And also they are connected to each strand. There are like 12 strands in a DNA. So each chakra connects to the specific strand of a DNA. What this chakras or energy centers primarily is doing is it is drawing energy from all these different planes of existence, like all the different lokas, and then providing a mechanism to deliver the energy to your DNA, energy to your body, so that your body becomes healthy and your body is able to reach its full potential. So from that standpoint, if you see the seven chakras that we have, it starts with Mooladhara, which is at the root. If you see the image, right? It's kind of close to the base of the spine. And as you go up, you have the next chakra, which is your navel chakra, or the sacral chakra, that is called the Swadhisthana, followed by your Manipura, which is your navel, or then Anahata, which is the heart chakra, and then you have the Vishuddha, which is your throat, then your Agnya, which is the third eye, and Sahasrara, which is sometimes referred to as a chakra, sometimes mostly referred to as a state. So there are a lot of different kind of things going on there. So if you look at the colors of all these, right, there are seven chakras, there are seven different colors, and they kind of follow the rainbow color pattern of it, your like violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, right? So, like for example, the Mooladhara chakra has the color of red, and it's connected to your physical body. It's connected to your first strand of DNA, and it is connected to your bhuloka, and primarily it is the center of your survival energy. Like your root chakra means your survival energy. The another common question that people have is that when you have the seven chakras, do we need to kind of meditate on all of them separately, or do we need to activate them one at a time? Like, for example, fully activate root chakra and then go to Swadhisthana and then go to Navel? No, we can always activate them parallelly. There is no dependency like that. But an underactive lower chakra will always have impact on the next higher chakra, right? So that dependency is always there, but you're free to kind of, let's say, for example, you want to start from the Sahasrara chakra also, you can start working on activating it and unblocking it. No problems with that. But remember that all the below six chakras, if they have any blockages, will have an impact on the Sahasrara also. So there is that interdependency also there. So when you look at root chakra, right? So what the root chakra really means is that if anybody is worried about his survival, like survival means fear. What is really an emotion associated with survival is fear, because a lot of people have imaginary fears like ghosts or being alone or walking alone in night, or even doing something new. They're fearful. Talking in front of people, they are fearful because they kind of imagine something, and then with that imaginary thing, they kind of try to avoid doing that, and that fear causes the associated adrenaline gland to kind of generate all the kind of hormones, excess hormones that cause the stress on you. And then because you are constantly in fear, you get all these psychosomatic problems and physical ailments and all that. Similarly, your swadhisthana or your sacral chakra is associated with your second strand of DNA. It is the center of your creativity, right? All your creative energies are rested in that place. So people who are more creative life, like the painters or creative style of life, like writing books, or musicians or painters or anything like that, or any kind of creative activity, the who does, you can say that their Swadhisthana chakra is active and all that. So similarly, when you go to the Manipura, it is the center of your winning attitude, or your your ability to, or another way they call it, center of your dhairya, right? Dhairya means like courage and your ability to handle things. That's what it signifies. Then you have the Anahata, which is the center of um, love and compassion, right? The In these seven chakras also, the lower three chakras relate to your physical existence, like all your physical needs, as a physical body, as a physical human representation and all that. But once you cross from third chakra to the fourth, fifth, and sixth, right, you are entering the divinity of your existence. They're called the divine chakras. For example, the attributes of love and compassion, your ability to talk truth, which is the essence of the Vishuddha chakra, and then similarly the divinity of Agnya Chakra. They're all divine powers, right? And you need to kind of make sure that your lower three chakras are well balanced enough so that they can allow you to be active in the higher three chakras. And then finally, you read the Sahasrara. Sahasrara is called a state because it is one chakra that is connected to your inner universe and also your outer universe, right? So like we call ourselves like a microcosm. The human body is a microcosm. Then there's a macrocosm, which is the whole universe, right? The Sahasrara chakra is connected to all your seven bodies, all your seven chakras, all your aura, and all the seven lokas. And similarly, it's connected to all the 272,000 nadis in your body. And then it's also connected externally to the whole universe, all the seven lokas out there, all the universes, all the multiverse universes, uh, the primordial consciousness, you can call it the primordial energy. You can travel to anywhere you want. You can basically you are at a stage which is called the Krishna consciousness or Christ consciousness, which means you are like yourself a creator of your own, of that stature. Right? So basically, it's like a junction point between your inner universe and your outer universe. So that's what Sahasrara Chakra represents. That's why it's also called as a Sahasrara state. and it's right above the crown, and it's also called the crown chakra. And it has like a thousand petaled like flower kind of a arrangement and all, and it's connected to your seventh strand of your DNA, connected to your Satyaloka, loka of truth and all that. Go a little bit detail into each of chakra. We'll go in little bit more detail for each of the chakra and like what they represent in terms of body parts, glands, and things like that. So the Muladhara chakra, which is the first chakra or called the root chakra, right? It's associated with your adrenal gland, and the body parts are like the bones, the bone marrow, your skin, retina, joints, and all that. So whenever you have problems in these body parts of your body, right, you can assume that your root chakra is out of balance. And what blocks this chakra, the primary emotion is fear. And what happens when it's underactive is that you are always anxious, you are unstable mind, you have low self-esteem, you are like you feel a lot of insecurity because of fear and all that, because it's also related to survival. So when you have survival issues, you feel a lot insecure in life. And when it's overactive, you are very highly conscious about your physical body. The negative side of making it overactive is that you are more physical. You're like you are always thinking about your body, like you're to be in put in layman's term, you're more worried about how you look like, how you appear like, and your body consciousness is very high. You're trying to spend more time taking care of physical body, which is not wrong, but sometimes it gets into an excess that you are more enamored about your physical body. When it's balanced, your survival and it's a balance, which means you feel secure, you feel less stressed, because obviously don't have fear, which means you're not pumping your adrenaline to time. You're more stable minded, well grounded. And how you do balance these chakras are obviously meditation is one positive big way of doing it. The other thing is in day-to-day life also, because you spend only like 2-3 hours a day for meditation. What do you do the remaining part of the time, right? You also have to make sure that you speak or think or do things that are helping towards it. So avoid seeing any things that are fearful in nature, like crime movies or like horror movies and all that. If you are right, because they in a subtle way start impacting your mind and your emotions. I always try to see like the humorous things or things that give more positive vibe to you, and also spend more time in nature. Like when you with being associated with earth element, right? Spend time in nature, like walk around with barefoot, like in a garden and all that, and get yourself grounded, feel the sense of earth and all that. That helps to balance this Muladhara chakra. And like I said, avoid doing anything that is negative in life, like speaking about constantly repeating the same topic of, like, so for example, nowadays COVID is a big issue. There is a habit of talking about COVID issues repeatedly. We see that we in YouTube or TV, and then keep talking about throughout the day about deaths and disease and all that. Avoid that, because the more you talk and the more you think or more you see of it, you are subtly imbibing those in your mental body and emotional body, and you are slowly adding the fears to your life. So that's about Muladhara chakra. The next one here is the Swadhisthana, which is the sacral chakra. It is of yellow color, sorry, orange color, and it's associated with your gonads, that's your glands. And like I said, it's a center of creativity in your body. So one of the primary creativity aspect of human life is the procreation aspect, right? So obviously, because of that, it's associated primarily with your organs of procreation, like all your ovaries, testes, sperm, eggs, uterus, gallbladder, and all those different body parts that help in the procreation aspect of human life. So if you see any problems in those areas, it means that your navel chakra is, sorry, your sacral chakra is not optimal. So when this is highly overactive, then the person tends to become more um, sexually active. with illicit affairs and those kind of things. So an overactive sacral chakra will cause those kind of things. When an underactive one will make a person feel very lonely and also unstable. When balanced, person's creative energies are full bloom, which means you will see he's involved in a lot of creative things like learning music, doing paintings, writing books, all those kind of creative aspects of life. He'll be very much involved in it. And also his, what you call the sexual lineations are in control. So that's one big benefit of having a Svadhisthana chakra in balance. So, like I said, here also a few things that you can do for both the root chakra and sacral chakra is that um, being at the base of your body. One of the things that you can do physically is like do a lot of dancing, like not not the Bollywood type of dancing, but any simple swaying of your hips and doing those kind of things regularly. That physical motion also causes these chakras to get activated. Another thing that you can do is like in a lot of temples when you go to especially the Ganesha temple, people take those sit-ups, right? Hold the ears and do sit-ups. That kind of an physical activity also helps to jumpstart the activity of your root and sacral chakra. So you can do meditation, but in the regular day physical life also try to make sure that you follow certain things that they complement your meditation and then help you achieve a balanced chakra of Sadhana. Next, the next higher chakra is the Manipura or the navel chakra. This is located right next to the navel area and it is connected to your pancreas. This chakra represents the energy center. That's why it's called a solar plexus. Also, it represents your winning attitude. Um, People who have this Manipura chakra or navel chakra balanced, you will find that they are always able to take up tasks in life and succeed in it. People who have this chakra as underactive, they are seldom successful in life because they lack that killing instinct or the winning attitude that takes them to the full extent and achieve what they want to achieve in life. And when it's overactive, people are more anger prone and egoistic and all that. But but when it's balanced, you have like in a respected society because you're obviously because when you pick up tasks and complete it successfully, it gives the benefit that you are recognized and you're a successful person. You get respect in society, and also you have good self-esteem, and all those things, positive qualities come through. And like I said, it's the benefit of having this chakra balance is that you have a lot of courage. Like in India, they say "Dhairya Sahasya Lakshmi." Like so, when you have courageous, you automatically um, you know you you get that courage and you get the associated money and wealth and everything follows through. So the first chakra was your survival instinct. The second was your creative center. The third becomes your energy center. So now these three chakras, like I said earlier, are the three primary chakras for your physical existence on this planet. You need to cross this to get to the next level, which is the divinity plane. And for that, the next chakra becomes your heart chakra or anahata chakra. The heart chakra is located close to your physical heart, not exactly the heart, but at the center of the spine. And it's associated with the thymus gland and the body parts that it's associated are heart, lungs, and gallbladder, and your diaphragm, and things like that. And the primary reason why it gets blocked is due to sorrow, dukkha. So, like I said in earlier, you do meditation, but also in day-to-day life, avoid seeing things or talking about repeatedly about situations that cause pain or dukkha or sorrow. I mean, they happen in life. Make a note of it and move on. Don't never repeat anything, any of these negative things in life. The constant repetition of either seeing them, thinking them, or seeing them, or discussing them is what emboldens these negative energies in our body and then causes blocks in our chakras and all that, which eventually prevents energy being flowed to the associated body parts, and that's why they start getting disease. So when this chakra is balanced, again here also you have respect in society, and this chakra is also primary energy force is the love and compassion. And when you are at a balanced heart level, you start truly loving people with unconditional love. Unconditional love, and when it is overactive, what happens is people start becoming more conditional love with other people. For example, they love people, but their love is with conditions. So the person whom you're loving in this state, he feels suffocated because he feels, okay, this person is loving me, but it's putting a lot of conditions to me, right? So he's kind of suffocated with all that. So that's the problem of overactiveness of your heart chakra. And underactiveness makes you a person who is devoid of love and karuna, more of a jealousy, and those kind of negative traits come into picture. And the benefits of a balanced state are that benefits of this balanced chakra are that you have a balanced life, you have love and compassion for others. Your relationship with others are much better because you're dealing with them at a level of love and compassion, and you're more peaceful, you're trustworthy, and you live a wholehearted life. So this is the first gate to getting into divinity aspect of our existence, right? So that's the first chakra. Then the next one follow to is the Visuddha chakra or the throat chakra. Like it is said, this Visuddha chakra is located in throat air location of your body, and it's associated with thyroid and parathyroid glands. There are two aspects about heart chakra and throat chakra that I want to mention. And what happens is one of the reasons why even heart chakra gets blocked is the lack of ability to express your sorrows or pains. Right. For example, if you look at it statistically, right, um, men tend to get more heart problems than women because men seldom express their sorrows. They try to bury them inside the heart, like typically the little. That's what they say. And what happens is that suppression of emotions in your heart leads to the heart problems. Whereas women, they are very very open in when coming to expressing their emotions. They if they have to cry, they just cry out. So which means those associated emotions are coming out. The suppression of emotions is not there. So that's why they have less of a tendency to get heart attack. But when it comes to the throat chakra, it's the other way around. Because of our societal situation, right, for last like thousands of years, being a more patriarchal society that we are, women are less allowed to speak openly in the society, which means their ability to express their viewpoints are suppressed. And as a result of that, primarily women tend to get thyroid related problems because when you suppress speaking, when you suppress your or when you're unable to speak out freely in society, those suppressed communications can cause throat issues or your thyroid issues. Whereas men being primarily a patriarchal society, they speak out, they express out, so they have less tendency to thyroid problems. So always remember that even in case of heart and throat chakra, right? If you have to say something, speak it out. Don't suppress anything. Suppression doesn't solve anything. It only causes more problem. Be it your sorrow, be you want to say something. Like for example, in throat chakra also, if you're not speaking truth, if you're not speaking supporting truth, it causes blocks in throat chakra because this is a stage where you have to be a truth speaking person. You cannot be anymore a person who's promoting falsehood or lies and things like that. Not only that, this chakra represents your ability to speak out in a community, like standing in front of people and talking openly. A lot of people cannot do. One reason is your root chakra having fear. The throat chakra also is uh, is not able allowing you to speak in front of people. So make sure that if you are having those kind of issues where you feel like not able to communicate in front of people or not able to speak out, right, express your viewpoints, or you feel something inside is blocking you from speaking what you want to speak, it means there is a blockage in the throat chakra. And when it's underactive, you feel shyness. That's obvious thing, because shy people means it means immediately that they don't want to speak out in front of people. Right? They're less communicative. When it's overactive, the other side is you speak a lot. You're like a chatterbox. You keep on constantly non-stop talking happens. That's a sign of overactiveness of throat chakra. That's also not right. Right. And the other thing is that when your throat chakra is overactive, you have a tendency to listen inappropriate things like all the gossips and you know negative things about others. You enjoy that. There is rasa in that. When some discussion of that happens, you naturally tend to lean towards it and try to listen to it. That's a sign of overactiveness of your throat chakra. Um, when it is balanced, you have a balanced life in the sense that you are all constantly becoming a person who is speaking truth. You are a promoter of truth. Like, for example, let's say vegetarianism, right? It's a truth that we have to promote. A lot of times we kind of feel a little scared or feel bad about saying that in front of people, thinking, "Okay, what will other people think?" And when we have that kind of thought, it means you are suppressing your throat chakra. Be bold, be speaks. If it is truth, you should be bold as for example, all these great masters like Socrates or Swami Dayananda Saraswati or Buddha or Krishna or Jesus, who gave their life to speak truth, right? So that is the kind of boldness you need to have. If it comes to truth, you should not hesitate to speak out. Don't worry about what others think. If you start worrying about what others are thinking and what will others react to you when you speak truth, you are blocking your throat chakra. It means you are blocking your growth again in spirituality. So that is the kind of impact all of this has. So that's why I'm saying meditation is one aspect, but how you carry the rest of the day in terms of how you think, speak, and do also have a complementary impact on your chakras, which means has a impact on your other body parts. When it is, if it is balanced, right, the benefits are that you live a truthful life and you have clarity of speech and you have a higher creative, you involved in higher levels of creations um, because of being in that truthful state. So after this one, the next one would be the Agnya chakra or the third eye chakra, that is on the middle of your eyebrows, and it's associated with your pineal gland. The body parts are eye, ear, nose, mouth, and also the meridians of your body, 72 meridians of your body. And it's primarily blocked because of two reasons. One is that if we have misused our third eye powers, uh, maybe in our past life we had the third eye power and we misused this. Misuse could be like, we peddled it for seeing somebody's future or kind of gauge somebody's, give some kind of advice and all that, or for monetary gains and things like that. Those kind of misuses can cause the third eye chakra to get blocked again. And also, the another reason is that a lot of people live in an imaginary world. They like or illusionary world. That also causes block in the third eye. Third eye means looking at things in reality, in truthfulness. So when you are in illusionary thought process, or when you're living more in imaginary world, you are causing a block on your third eye chakra, right? So when it's underactive, your life is more of illusions. You always what you see, you think it is is the truth, but it may not be the truth, right? You have to really get into the depth of things to understand certain times what truth is. You don't do that. You just take things at the surface value and take them as truth. So those kind of things are happen when you third eye chakra is uh, underactive. Um, when it's overactive, people become psycho. psychic, not psychic, psycho, which means they behave more in a mental kind of a situation. You know, they don't know what they're thinking and what they're doing, and you know, that kind of a situation happens. So when if you see people having that kind of tendency, then you can say, hey, their Agnya chakra is or Third chakra is kind of or active. It needs to be balanced out. When it is balanced, all your divine powers get awakened, like your sixth sense, your clairvoyance, telepathy, um, your intuition develops, your inner voice. You can see inner voice, you can hear your inner voice. Your gut feel develops, and there are like multiple levels of seven chakra also. So based on what level of activation happens, that kind of divine attribute comes to you. So you are able to live a more what you called a life that is fulfilled with the sixth sense and your intuition, and you are self-guided person, which means now you don't have to depend on others for suggestion or advice, because now your own soul is able to communicate to you and say what is right for you and guide you. And there's no other better friend than that in your life, right? So that is the reason why we need to make sure that our Agnya chakra is balanced and activated to so that we have that kind of uh, benefits in our life. The last one, like I said, is the Sahasrara chakra state, and it is associated with the pituitary gland, and the body parts are the brain and all the 272,000 meridians in our body. And the primary reason why it gets blocked is ego. Because remember that you reached a state of divinity, but what is separating you from the absolute Parabrahma is your still holding on to your identity. And you hold on to your identity because of your ego. Your ego is not able to let down your identity. Unless you are let down, you're able to let down your identity, your immersion into this universe doesn't happen. So that is the last thing that we have to drop off. Until then, we are conquering our fears, our creativities, our energies, love, compassion, and all those things. But finally, it comes to a point where even that identity has to be dropped, so that you merge with the the Mula Chaitanya, the Parabrahman, and all that. And when it's underactive, people who have this state underactive, they're not spiritual in life, which means they don't try to lead a spiritual life. They are away from spirituality. So you may have other chakras balanced, but this is if this is not balanced or underactive, then you don't be you won't like participating in spiritual activities to like meditation or even promoting the spiritual values. When it's overactive, you live an egoistic life because it represents ego. So people have larger than life ego when they have this overactive Sahasrara chakra. But when it's balanced, you live with the highest level of consciousness. You are like a Krishna conscious person or a Jesus conscious person, right? And you are able to you become like a true creator, which means you reach the state of being the true potential of a true creator, like Jesus Christ or Krishna or any of others those enlightened masters that we all kind of look towards, right? So that's what Sahasrara represents. So from a layman's point of view, right? These are all energy centers in our energy body. In fact, our physical body to which they are associated with, you can do meditation to balance them. You can do meditation to balance all of them at the same time or one at a time, whichever you feel like. There's no dependency. But the activation of one chakra depends on other chakra. And especially Sahasrara, all these six chakras, below six chakras, have layers in Sahasrara, which means like you have a Manipura layer, you have a Swadhisthana layer, you have Muladhara layer. So blocks in the chakra will cause blocks in the layer of that in Sahasrara. So you have to cleanse all of that. But you can always activate Sahasrara also. Um, they help to draw energy from all the different energies, energy lokas that they are associated with. Like, for example, Sahasrara is associated with Satyaloka, Agna is with the Tapasloka and all that. They draw energy from that and they give energy to the associated energy body and also to the associated strand of DNA to activate that uh, that aspect of the DNA that it represents. So we have supposed to have 12 DNAs in our body, sorry, 12 strands in our DNA, but we only have two active at any given point of time. That's a different subject, but that's the whole concept behind the seven chakras, seven bodies, seven lokas, and the seven strands of DNA. They're all interconnected and interconnected at the energy level, but they are impacted on what you do in a day-to-day life from your speech, heart, emotions, and actions that you perform. So that's the whole interdependence between the chakras, bodies, and lokas and all that.